Coco Gauff's defeat to Aryna Sabalenka and the impact of WTA Tour Finals round-robin math. Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. A WTA Tour Finals showdown between Coco Gauff and Aryna Sabalenka with a spot in the semi-finals on the line seemed like a pretty tasty offering. They hadn't played since the French Open final, when Gauff came back from a set down to scramble Sabalenka's brain, with some help from a swirling wind, and walked off with her second Grand Slam title. Then, in one of the lower moments of her career, Sabalenka unloaded, first in her loser's speech and then in her post-match news conference, saying the only reason that Gauff won was because Sabalenka had played terribly in horrid conditions. Thursday night's rematch held the promise of revenge going both ways. Until round-robin math intruded, flattening what could have been another classic and sending Sabalenka onto the semi-finals with a 7-6-5, 6-2 win over the world number 3 and defending champion. "I love getting revenge," Sabalenka said in a mixed zone after the match. For 10 months, no one in tennis cares about how many games a player needs to win a match. They can win 18 of 32 games and still lose. Then the tour finals roll around, and suddenly the difference between advancing and going home can come down to a percentage of games won over 3 matches. It's the sort of calculation that is reasonably impossible to keep in the brain while trying to beat one of the other 7 best players in the sport. If Gauff had won on Thursday, she, Sabalenka and Jessica Pegula all would have finished the round-robin with a 2-1 record. The first tiebreak in that scenario is head-to-head record, then sets 1, then game percentage 1. The way it worked out, Gauff essentially had to beat Sabalenka in straight sets to advance. She could do it in 3, but it would require a faintly absurd scoreline, a close set going Sabalenka's way, either before or in between 2 beatdowns from the American. Gauff started the mission firing. The usual shakiness with her first serve was gone. She tagged forehand after forehand with a brutal efficiency, as she so often does against Sabalenka and world number 2 Iga Swiatek, embracing the freedom of being the relative underdog in a matchup. She broke Sabalenka in the first game, then again in the 5th. Leading 4-2, she got 3 more break points by outslugging the biggest slugger in the sport. But then Sabalenka's serve caught fire and lifted her out of trouble, before she broke Gauff with the American having been 2 points from winning the first set. 2 games later, Gauff was 4-2 up in a first-set tiebreak with a short backhand for a 5-2 lead. She stuffed it into the net. Then came a double fault at the worst moment to give Sabalenka set point, which she took with a forehand winner. Gauff now needed 2 one-sided sets, which isn't how a player usually thinks about winning a 3-setter. In any other competition, the 21-year-old would slough off the disappointment and dig in for a marathon. Instead, the scenario required a sprint from a standing start. She was down 0-4 in about 12 minutes, and managed just 2 more games in her final match of a long season. "I had a lot of chances in the first set, so it was a bit disappointing not to get that one," Gauff said in a mixed zone. "A couple of points in the tiebreak I had literally on my racket, so yeah, it was a tough one." Sabalenka's win sets up another opportunity for revenge, this time for her opponent, Amanda Anisimova. Pegula will take on Elena Rybakina, the informed player at the event who has won 9 completed matches in a row and has been whipping balls at the lines and into the corners with abandon. "We all know how she can play, huge game, big serve. I think these conditions definitely suit her," Pegula said in a mixed zone of Rybakina. "It seems like she's hitting every single mark." Sabalenka and Anisimova have played 2 massive matches this year, with Anisimova getting the better of Sabalenka in the Wimbledon semifinal and Sabalenka getting her revenge in the US Open final. They've been trading wins since the start of 2024. That would suggest it's Anisimova's turn, but that's not exactly how this rivalry works these days. It's usually a couple of points either way. A lot of great matches, a lot of great battles, and I'm super happy to see her healthy, competing, playing her best tennis, Sabalenka said of Anisimova. "I'm really excited to be facing her." Sometimes in tennis, the scoreboard tells only half the story. Coco Gauff's defeat to Aryna Sabalenka at the WTA Finals in Riyadh wasn't just a loss. It was a reminder of how brutally poetic this sport can be. A few points here, a few games there, and the destiny of a season can twist in unexpected ways. Gauff entered the court with confidence, fire, and the kind of swagger that comes only from a summer that included a Grand Slam title and a rise to world-class stardom. But against Sabalenka, the reigning power queen of the women's game, the young American found herself staring into the hard edges of the WTA Finals' unforgiving round-robin system. The match itself was a microcosm of their rivalry: ferocious rallies, fearless hitting, and emotional intensity that made the crowd hold its breath. Sabalenka, with her signature roar and missile-like serves, imposed herself early, pushing Gauff behind the baseline. Yet, Gauff's defense, elastic, instinctive, almost balletic, kept her alive in rallies that seemed already lost. The first set became a tug-of-war, Sabalenka edging it 7-5 with a thunderous forehand winner that painted the line. For Gauff, that one-set loss didn't just hurt her confidence, it warped her tournament fate. The WTA Finals round-robin format is both fascinating and cruel. Every set, every game, and even the margin of victory or defeat can determine who advances. In a knockout format, you lose, you go home, simple. But in round-robin math, one player's fortune can depend on another's performance. It's a tennis version of controlled chaos, a mix of numbers, permutations, and emotional endurance. When Gauff dropped the second set 6-3, the scoreboard showed defeat, but the real story was written in the equations behind the scenes. Her semi-final hopes began to dim, not because she had played poorly but because Sabalenka's win, combined with Jessica Pegula's earlier dominance, created a web of possibilities that left Gauff clinging to mathematical hope. The WTA Finals don't simply reward brilliance. They test consistency under pressure and the ability to manage expectations when destiny slips from your racket into a calculator. As the players shook hands, there was mutual respect. Sabalenka knew what this win meant, not only a personal redemption after tough losses to Gauff earlier in the season but also a passport to the semi-finals. She raised her arms to the sky, not just in victory but in relief. The world number 2 had done her part. Gauff, meanwhile, walked off the court with a heavy heart but her head still high, knowing that her journey in this tournament wasn't defined by a single defeat but by the thin line between success and heartbreak. The impact of the round-robin system is unique to this event. It makes every point feel heavier, every error amplified. For Gauff, who thrives on rhythm and momentum, it meant learning a new kind of mental math, one that values resilience as much as results. In the days leading up to the Sabalenka match, she had looked strong, disciplined, even joyful. But when your fate is entangled with others, the emotional load doubles.